$1,500 richer. Two-time NASCAR. Is your 2013 NASCAR iRacing done? It's going to be Humvee winning the race, and it's going to be Conti taking away his first NASCAR.
2017 NASCAR Beginner Free Series Championship to Ryan Luza. Federer is a four-time champion of the NASCAR Beginner Free iRacing Series.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another edition of RaceSpot TV Friday Primetime, streaming live here as always on the iRacing Esports Network. It's round number 6 here for the iRacing Formula Renault 3.5 Championship, and this time we head to the UK, to what is pretty much my home track. I only live a short while away from this one. It is Donington Park here today. I am Connery Maddock, and joining me in the commentary booth as ever, it is the one, the only Will Vincent. And Will, the Formula Renault 3.5 Championship takes its first trip to the great UK.
Yeah, you're right, Connery, because, you know, this track, it is both our closest tracks, and actually, I've been to Donington Park more than times than I've been to Silverstone as well, because this track not only hosts a number of club races, it almost got Formula 1 back in 2008 as hosted the European Grand Prix, but of course, on the infield and lastly on the outfield, it also hosts the Download Festival, which is the biggest rock and metal festival in all of Europe except for Germany.
Yeah, indeed it is, but for today's race, it's going to be host to the Formula Renault 3.5 qualifying at the moment, with Rico Alatalo getting himself provisional pole position by only a couple of thousandths of a second there, right at the point at the end of the field. Morgan Moran putting in a fantastic effort so far as well. We have a very, very big split here today. 28 cars will take to the starting grid once we get ourselves the qualifying over and done with. In terms of the cars that haven't set lap times just yet, one driver I'm going to be very curious about to see where he ends up is going to be Manu Domingos. He's actually heading his way out of the final corner right now. Across the line, he will go, Manu Domingo, and he will actually get himself onto the start of his flying lap gear, Will. 6th in terms of the iRating in this entire single split field, Will. So I can expect Manu to be somewhere inside of that top 10, preferably towards the front.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of drivers going to be very unhappy about the fact that they are in a single split here today, Connie, because, of course, Friday night is normally where the big boys run, but most people are focused on another event, and that is the 24 hours of Daytona. And the thing about these 12-week seasons are, Connery, is you get 4 drop weeks, and a lot of drivers have to actually figure out what their other team commitments are. Very good, 16.249 first sector there by Manu Domingo. But a lot of drivers here are thinking maybe this is backup race rather than it being the race that's going to get the maximum points in the championship.
Yeah, exactly. It is a very unorthodox layout as well. Usually when you go to Donington Park, you usually see the national layout, which makes the final sector a bit simpler, tighter chicane, but in this GP layout, you got the wider turn 9 and 10 chicane, and then it takes you down to the Melbourne hairpin at turn number 11. But Manu Domingo across the line, what can he do? It's a 112.5, which is good enough for P number 9, so he is inside that top 10, but not as high as I thought he was. We got Ruslan Sabatov coming out of that turn number 11 hairpin up towards good odds now. P number 13 at this moment in time. Can he improve? That's a little bit of a strange line coming through the final corner. A bit too wide on entry, and in fact, he is going to abort that lap. We've got Cody Sanborn, the number 27 machine, yet to set a lap time, and he's perhaps only one of the only cars that can actually get themselves a lap time on the board at this early stage. Across the line he will go, and he is not going to set a time, and with the time remaining only about a minute, he won't have time to complete this. Well,
no, he won't. And actually, I'm not going to lie to you, Connery, I was thinking about all the places that I've been on this racetrack, because again, yeah, I'm going to talk about Donington Park as a home of British metal in many ways, because of the fact it hosted Download Festival, first on the inside, then on the outside. And I'll tell you one thing, Connery, before 2008, you used to be able to walk through most of the track. What that did mean, if I'm going to be polite about it, is there's been a lot of places that has been urinated on the track, especially around the Dunlop hairpin. I have got to put my hand up and say I did it once because the queue for the toilets were too long, but this is a track that's got many different people having many different opinions about it. As I say, it almost had the British Grand Prix before the team that was supposed to renovate the track went into administration.
yeah, exactly. What could have been if that didn't happen, and then, you know, the crown somewhat might be taken away from Silverstone. Instead, we'll have the Donington Grand Prix instead. But the qualifying session here is over, so now is around about the time where we go through your starting grid for Friday primetime. Pole position is going to go the way of Rico Alatalo. P number 1 in the qualifying, P number 1 in terms of your iRating here today. Highest iRated in the entire field, with Morgan Morand on that front row with him by only a couple of thousandths of a second behind. Danny Garcia-Filol will get himself P number 3 on the grid, with Ricardo Orozco rounding out row number 4 for Positive Sim Racing. Stefan Chantel will line up in P5 with Stephen Gatesman P6, with Ryan Park in 7th. Rob Boa will round out row number 4. Manu Domingo and Claudio Candio will bring things down to your top 10. Joshua Jabolinski, Matthew Kalistani, Ruslan Sabatov and Tom Depke there bring things down to 14th, with Cesar Sebral, Angel Voska, Freddie Wegnerkamp, Baston Kotov bringing things down to P number 18, with Byron Daly and Pablo Lumbera Suarez rounding out your top 20. Andrea Del Piccolo, Scott Bolstra. We've got Ralph Murphy, Andreas Nielsen, Fabian Logajo, Jack Aiden, Cody Sanborn, and Michael Francis, rounding out your 28-car grid here today. Most of everyone's gotten themselves to the starting grid. We're just waiting a couple moments to get ourselves started here for this 26-lap event around the Donington GP circuit. Just waiting for a couple of stragglers right at the back of the field to get themselves onto the starting grid then. We're waiting for P number 24, Andreas Nielsen, to get himself going, but that clock will tick down. 2 minutes is the point of no return to get yourself to the grid, and that has just passed, so that those red lights will be showing out there on track, and drivers can rev their engines to ready to get going here in the Race Sport Free TV Friday prime time here at Donington Park. Rico Alatalo immediately defensive down into Redgate as Moran tries as he might around his outside, but clips a little bit of the gravel on the outside there. Philo will take this as an opportunity to try to challenge down towards the crane of curves for the first time, but he'll have to sail back in line single file, side by side briefly there between Chantal and Parkins right at the back, as Parkins will get another good run off of the old hairpin here, able to challenge Chantal all the way up towards McLean's. Parkins will have the inside, but has to yield as Chantal has edged his way ahead, coming up towards the middle of the first lap.
Oh, the car turn around there. That is Claudio in the number 12 car. He's gone off. We saw that. And Malan Domingo as well has gone out of this motor race as well. So Domingo, we're on board of him. 2 drivers have dropped themselves out early here.
Yes, they have. Big instant. I believe that was coming up in towards McLean's Coppice, up on towards the hill there. Malan Domingo just gets completely drilled from behind there by Claudio Candio. Goes for a little bit of a barrel roll in towards the gravel there, coming through Coppice Corner. So that is going to be his race completely done and dusted for this week. Back towards the front of the field, though. We got Rico Alatalo still leading the way after an early challenge from Morgan Morans, and Morans lost a good chunk of time here, 0.7 of a second behind at the line already. So Alatalo looking to head for the hills already at this early stage, but there's a closer battle for P number 3 as Danny Garcia Filo has to defend from the Brazilian of Ricardo Orozco up towards McLean's, and Orozco doesn't get the best of runs through there, but he can recover things on the way up towards Coppice as we have a slow car right at the back of Charlotte. Joshua Jabolinski, the number 11, has run himself into a couple of issues coming through McLean's Corner. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's just a single car incident. Oversteer on entry and couldn't catch it at all. Yeah,
here's a replay. We caught it at the end of it. Let's go back about 10 seconds and show you the highlights of this one. And this track as well, Connie, you got to remember, as we see the grass there coming into play for Jabolinski, as he just gets his 2 left wheels onto the grass. This is a track that is historic for off-track incidents and also for slowed down penalties. So, expect as we see one of the drivers on the front of your field, 2 drivers, that is Brian Daly involved, as well as Ralph Murphy going on the exit of Goddard's.
Yeah, exactly what has happened here. Byron Daly, that car completely swapped ends on the entry to the corner. No one else had made contact with him, thankfully, but these cars are already looking pretty sketchy coming through the corners here at Donington Park, and everyone did have to scatter behind that incident. But as I said, no one's been collected. But just as I say that, the number 22 goes for a spin coming through the old hairpin, and the car behind him of Jabolinski does collect him off the corner.
Yep, so we've got a lot of action at the start of this race, Connery, and as I said, off-track incidents as well as slow-down penalties can create some huge issues here. And what we see, though, that is just a case of him slowing on the apex of the corner, Andrea Del Piccolo, and he gets hit not once but twice. Rear of that car turned out. That car is out of the race.
Quite a few early casualties in this one. We also had Domingo drop out of the race. Same with Cesar Sebral and Vasan Kutov right at the back of the field. They won't be coming off of the pit lane in any rapid fashion at all. Meanwhile, the gap at the front has come down a little bit as Morgan Morant tries to get himself back in this race for the, well, back in this battle, excuse me, for the race lead. Of course, we discuss it every week here on these races that these drivers do have the DRS activations to work with here, but the only place where that might even be useful is coming out of turn number 8 down in towards the turn 9 and 10 chicane, and then maybe down in towards the Melbourne hairpin, maybe coming across the pit straight. But the thing is, all of those are relatively short straights where you can't utilize the maximum advantage of using the DRS.
One thing you've noticed already about Ricardo Tallo is he actually almost there, he got himself past that 1 second bracket in the first couple of laps of this event, but on lap number 4 of 26, what's happened is that Morand has been able to close back up, but more importantly, you've now got a 2-car breakaway, because from second to third place is 2.7 seconds on track. From third to fourth place is 2.9 seconds on track. So all these incidents in the early going has helped the top 5. So almost got side by side there. We had side by side. That's Ryan Parkins and Stephen Gatesman.
Yeah, exactly. Might be 2 sets of battling down in towards turn number 1. Parkins will commit to the outside on Stephen Gatesman, but has to drop back by the time the middle of the corner arrives. So he'll have to survive and just fight another day in this one to get himself inside of those top 6 runners. There's a close battle ahead of these guys as well between Orozco and Stefan Chantal that, well, haven't gone side by side just yet, but they're looking pretty close to being able to do so over the next couple of laps, and depending on how the DRS situation works out between these pairs of battles up through towards Coppice Corner, then this is where you can get the run off the corner to perhaps try to challenge down into the turn 8 and, well, turn 9 and 10 chicane, but this one not quite as tight as the National Circuit chicane, so you can't really make any sort of out-braking moves down into there. I think if these drivers would were responsible at picking the layout here, they would have gone for the National Circuit just because of that overtaking opportunity into the chicane.
Yeah, indeed. So, but the drivers don't, of course, get to choose. Well, they do actually get the chance to choose what tracks they run on. That's one of the cool things about iRacing. That the community are involved. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah,
community are involved actually in terms of, selecting the tracks for their own series. You see it quite often in some of the predominant series, like the NTT IndyCar series, as is now known as, and other series, that they do actually have an input as to what tracks they're going to race on that 12-week schedule.
I believe that applies to pretty much every single series, apart from the NASCAR series, when the real-life part of that is actually within a season. And in that case, they do try to match week on week where the actual race cars are at.
And there's many people who actually wish it was a different layout, but they can't.
Yeah, exactly. But looks like these 2 battles that we have been watching over the past couple of laps are starting to come together in one big train right now of 4 cars. Chantal leading right at the front with Orozco, then Gatesman, then Parkins. But Gatesman has been making a couple of inroads here on the 2 ahead of him. So he'll look to make this one a trio at least, depending on how Ryan Packers at the back of the field can deal with the pace that these guys have been running. But through Goddard's they will go, and there's still no runs going either way here, coming down towards turn number 1. So this is just locked in a little bit of a status quo right now, just as we get towards the, well, not even the end of the first half of the lap. This race has gone relatively slow. We're on lap number 7, so there's still plenty of time for these guys to decide their differences.
Yeah, as we just saw a replay with Tom Depke, as we have got production working right now in towards turn 1 at the same time. Freddie Renkamp and Ralph Murphy, they're battling at it for P number 11 on track. What we saw with Depke was basically he just pushed off wide into the gravel. And one thing is I love about this track probably is the fact that it is still a real racetrack. You've got grass, you've got gravel, you've got tyre barriers. There's none of that like I say, or Circuit of the Americas or Paul Ricard. This is a track that still has the old-fashioned grass and then gravel.
Orozco's made a mistake at the front of the field, and number 2 has to battle side by side, this time with Stephen Gatesman coming through the Melbourne hairpin, and Gatesman might even just be looking for more. Will he have to go defensive because of Orozco's reply down into the final corner? These guys are all stacked up. There has been a little bit of trouble behind. We'll have a look at the replay of this one. Will take us through.
Yeah, this has got Antti Levoska in this one, as well as one other driver. 2 of them going off out the chicane. And, well, I mean, this is one of those critical points on the racetrack, Connor. You talk about the fact that not everyone wants to run with the chicane. They hit once.
Race lead.
Go for it.
Oh, race lead. Morgan Morant had a massive lock at the inside at turn number 7 of McLean's, but unfortunately it hasn't paid off for him. But he's been doing fantastic stuff over the past couple of laps to get himself in a position where he can challenge. He'll sit in a slipstream. He'll have a bit of a twitch coming down the back straight. I'm not sure what that one was about, but Morgan Morans now, he is the driver that's going to be on a charge and searching desperately for this race win over your championship leader.
And let's talk about the DRS in terms of this comment, because the best place to use that DRS is not at the start or finish straight. It is not down after the S's. It is actually down the exit of Coppice, down Starkey straight away. Although Moran is looking close again as they come onto the entry into Redgate, looking left, looking right, looking to the outside, and he can't do it.
He's gonna try to still go around that, but this will leave him pretty close coming up towards the Craner curves, and side by side through here isn't the best idea, but Moran makes it work around the outside at the old hairpin as well. They somehow make it work going through there, and somehow Alatalo is still ahead on the run up towards McLean's. Moran's not gonna give up this fight very easily around the outside again. He has to go around turn number 7, but finally he has to break out of it. But that is such a huge amount of aggression there for Morans. It's impressive stuff.
Put that battle in the iRacing top 10 for 2019 January, I tell you that one, Connery, because that was 2 drivers showing respect, but also going wheel to wheel on a very narrow racetrack. Moran did use the DRS then in towards turn number 1 Redgate, but he couldn't make it work.
Exactly, but I think as things stand, he'll get a few more opportunities. This has allowed the Danny Garcia Filol MP number 3 to catch up just a little bit here. And if these guys slow each other down just a little bit more, then we could be talking about a 3-car fight for your race lead coming up towards the halfway point in this race. We'll get a replay of something that has happened out there on track right now. I believe this is on board with Stephen Gatesman there as he tries to challenge Ryan Parkins, looking down towards the inside at Melbourne, and Parkins just has to drift out wide here. He will fight back off the corner, and Gatesman gets a little bit of oversteer coming off the corner, so that means Parkins will actually get himself the advantage in that sort of situation, but Gatesman's still all over the back of him for P6.
How many times, Conley, have we seen people getting loose down at the hairpin, and actually Gatesman's going to go to the outside. This is shades of what we saw from the race lead a moment ago. This time, however, Gatesman looks as though he might be able to make that outside line work. Fantastic.
He is, and up in towards Coppice, he actually gets the position there, so that's a lesson from Stephen Gatesman on how it's done. So Morgan and Moran, pay attention, because Gatesman has done what you couldn't and get past the car around the outside up and towards that corner, but looking further back through the field, that's Claudio Candio going down the inside there of the car of Ralph Murphy. Murphy was pretty slow coming through Coppice corner, so that was a position easily gained there from the driver of the number 12. So we all know now that it is possible to pass around the outside here at Donington Park. So Morange will have that one in mind, but it's a different situation when you talk about Riku Alatalo defending. Apart from, you know, when you talk about him defending, rather than any other driver in this field, he's going to be much more competent at trying to hold position. Yeah,
Riku Alatalo, or as he was once famously called, Ricky Atulu, has been one of these drivers. He's got himself a pole position in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, which of course no longer exists, being replaced by the Porsche World Championship Series of 2019. But Riku Alatalo has that distinction of being a driver to score pole position in a World Championship Series, Conley. He's a driver, actually, I have to say, he messes around, he doesn't do the practice, he doesn't really care that often, but when he does actually put it all into his car, he is still one of the best pure drivers I know on iRacing.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there as we continue to watch this battle file itself through the final corner. Morans, has he used all that he has to give already this early on, or is he just biding his time for another challenge later on in the race? Alatalo is just edging out that gap slightly, but Morans, he was able to pull it back in on that last lap, but they're not as close as they once were. So Morans still has a lot of work to do here with 6/10 of a second behind. He will close it up once again up and towards McLean's as that gap just bounces back and forth. We're going one way and the other, but Rico Alatalo is doing such a good job at the front of the field. We're riding on the back, though, of Matteo Calistani right now, as he has a good couple of machines behind him that could threaten him over the next couple of laps. Cordio Candio is that yellow machine that's getting him right on towards his rear wing, and a slow run through the old hairpin is going to give the advantage to Candio, as Calistani will block the move coming around the outside, which would eventually give the inside for McLean's, but that was an important defense there from Calistani to prevent that from happening.
And this is the graphic I want to show you as well. 12.6 right now, the gap between Calistani in 8th and Parkins in 7th. So these guys really are fighting for the rear of your top 10 as we go back on board of Matteo Calistani into the chicane. I will say, Claudio Candio has been fantastic in that number 12 car right now, because he's been gaining over most of these drivers and over Fist. Number 12 in terms of iRating. But this driver has made one big move already. He's looking to make many more.
He's running the same pace as P number 3 right now, with those lap times of 1:15.4 that he has been setting. So the Italian does have the pace here, especially over his fellow compatriot of Matteo Calistani down towards turn number 1. Still not in a position to be able to challenge his Candio, but he's been looking threatening all the same, and the run down towards the corner curves could be very important here, looking for any gap on the inside or outside, but unfortunately unable to find it very quick through the old hairpin there. Massive missed apex on the inside of the corner, and that's going to put Candio a little bit of a deficit here. He is being threatened from behind, though. You do have to remember, from the likes of Ralph Murphy and Freddie Vanderkamp, so he's got to be looking ahead and behind.
Yeah, and the thing I noticed there by Candio last time by, he had a fantastic run on the exit of Redgate, but just not able to make the move work. I think he was on DRS then. He's on DRS certainly now as he goes down to the inside. Claudio Candio up into P number 8 there, Connery.
He does gain the position, and it causes a little bit of palaver further back, though, as Rennie Vanderkamp goes down the inside of Ralph Murphy in towards the Melbourne hairpin. But the thing is, there was not much commitment from Vanderkamp, but the thing is, he still gains the position when all is said and done when it comes to the exit of the corner. And this battle has brought Tom Depke back into the fight as well, right at the back of the train as around goes Freddie Vanderkamp. Oh, that was from hero to zero coming off of the final turn there, getting that pass done over Ralph Murphy, but completely messing things up coming off the final corner. And these falling around 3.5s, they can be very sketchy on the throttle at times, especially when you're still turning, and that is a result of that sort of behavior. Yeah,
we've seen it from the rear, we've seen it partially from the front. We're going to have one more look. This was then the run in towards Goddard's turn number 11. Here we are on board with Freddie Ventkamp, and he just loses it all by himself there. It's that slow spin that we often see in the Formula Renault 3.5s there, Connery. As a consequence of that, he's lost positions down into 13th place now on the racetrack, and actually he's trying to get himself back past Pablo Suarez in the number 16 machine as they head themselves now towards the Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah, that's just one of the characteristics of these cars in iRacing. They do not like curbs. They do not like you being aggressive with the throttle coming off the corner. And Byron Daly's had a little bit of a spin. I say little bit. That seems to be a major one coming through to the old hairpin. We'll get another look at this one from the chopper cam. So the driver from the Carolinas. Let's have another little look in towards the old hairpin. It was a very high-speed spin indeed onto the curb, and just the gradual sort of swapping of ends coming on the exit of the corner, and contact with the barrier is going to mean that he does drop all the way back through the field. We're riding on board with Danny Garcia-Filol, though, who is looking to try to chase down your race leaders right now, but isn't having the best of success at it. It just seems like Alatalo Morant has so much pace over the rest of the field that Filol's basically the best of the rest at this point.
Yeah, and one of the things that's worth noting, actually, with Philo is that he has got a fastest lap time of 1:13.107. That is half a second slower than Alatalo. That is 0.3 of a second slower than Moran. So Philo, we normally put him here, Connery, in the top 3 of most races, but he's been outclassed here today by Italo and Moran.
He has, and those cars up the front of the field, at least if the last lap is to be concerned about, then that is a second faster that the front 2 are running than him. It's a little bit of a blip that Phil had, had a pretty terrible last lap, but still the overall trend has been a good couple of tenths of a second every single lap that those top 2 have been running off into the distance. We're riding on board, though, with the battle for P number 10. That's going to be, we're riding on board with Matteo Calistani right now, who has has not really had the best of times in this race so far. He has gained a position on his qualifying, so at least he's got that to be happy about. But Claudio Candio's gone off here through the old hairpin, the driver of the number 12. Couple of issues for him. He's looking so strong just a couple of laps ago, and it's another victim of a spin through the old hairpin. So clipping that curb and the car getting upset.
Yeah, there's a replay of that one. Of course, having to turn the car around afterwards, Connery. And, well, Claudio Cano, of course, he got himself up into the top 10. Had a fantastic drive, but now he's got 3 guys behind him and really hot tyres. And there's a driver to the outside.
Oh! No! That's a massive smash in towards the chicane. We'll get another look of it in just a couple of moments' time, but it was Rene van der Kamp completely plowing the back of Suarez there, who looked towards the inside off on a very slow Claudio Candio. We'll get to see it, bam, right there as we zoom back in at the point of contact. Candio completely just shoving the car ahead into the entry to the corner, and Candio is just an innocent passenger at that point. He can't expect that, he can't avoid it.
No, it's not a free car incident, and this is what I said earlier on, Connery. This is a track that does make incidents almost by design. It's so narrow, Donington Park. Of course, the only time it's ever held a Formula 1 Grand Prix in 1993 in the wet, where Ayrton Senna was able to get that victory in what was one of the best Grand Prix of all time. But what we haven't talked about for a while is the battle for the race lead, because Rico Alatalo only has half a second over Moran.
He does. I wonder if we can get that lap delta graphic up to see the progress that Morgan Morant has been making. You see, look, 1.5 tenths of a second lap 16, and another tenth of a second going the way of him on lap number 17. And perhaps what might be a bigger issue for Rico Alatalo right now is that he has a couple of bits of lap traffic ahead to have to deal with. So that is going to be a huge concern in terms of him trying to hold on to this position. But Morant, he's so quick coming through the chicane. He'll look to the inside.
Oh my word!
Oh, he hits the Glacier driver of Alatalo down towards the Melbourne hairpin. A little bit of confusion about which way each driver was going to go down into there. But Morant, he committed down the inside. He tried to throw the dummy. But the thing is, what do you make of this instant here, Wells? We'll see it on the replay.
Well, the thing is, Moran went to the left first, then went back to the right, and just didn't have the room, because you see that Alatalo's punted all the way to the left-hand side of the racetrack before they even made the apex of the corner. Let's have a look again on board right now.
Alatalo's back ahead.
Yeah, let's have a look on board of Moran, just to show you the replay. Moran just takes it too late, and you see, he gave the position back, but that's the right thing for him to do.
Yeah, but it is very much the right thing for him to do. If we did have live stewards in this series, in iRacing official events, then a penalty would definitely be going the way of Moran. So he took the chivalrous option and just got gave the position back to Rico Alatalo so we can perhaps continue on this battle for P1. But the concern more becomes about how much damage each of these two cars have. It's a slightly deformed there front wing for Morgan Morand, but we can't quite easily see the damage to the rear of Rico Alatalo. I'm just having a look at the exhaust assembly there where the rain light is. You can't see it on your screen right now as he has to go down the inside of the traffic. He gets oversteer off the corner, but Morand was also similarly impeded coming off of the final corner as well. You'll still be able to challenge around the outside of turn number 1. It'll have to be keep the line as tight as you dare coming through there. Almost contact off the corner as they'll battle down the hill then through the Craner Curves. Morand again trying to attempt this outside move. We've seen moves done like this before, and Morand's able to make it. Your new race leader is the Frenchman of Morgan Morand, but don't count Alatalo out of this one. He'll continue to try to harass the back up towards McLean's and Coppice, but he's going to drop a little bit behind here. So Alatalo, if you've got anything in this last 6.5 laps, this is the time to show it, to wrestle the race lead back.
Couple of things. First of all, I think this is a little bit like Hamilton and Raikkonen at Spa many moons ago, it seems now, between the two of them. Of course, yes, Alatalo was able to keep the race lead. However, there was a bit of damage to the rear of that race car.
Yeah.
The thing for me about Alatalo is what is going to happen, and has he got DRS available? Because Alatalo has not really been using DRS. Morand has been. So, with 6 laps to go, can Alatalo squeeze 2 good laps together here, Connery, to get that race lead back?
Yeah, confirming the damage there to Rico Alatalo's car. That whole area around the gearbox where the rain light is has just been shoved in by a good couple of centimeters. So he's going to be feeling the effects of that one. So Morand just playing with fire with the exit of the old hairpin. Actually, will give the run back to Alatalo. DRS is going to be open. Here comes Alatalo. Despite the damage, he's going to try to fight back, and unsuccessful up towards turn number 7 that time. But Alatalo, he still has pace in that car. He still has DRS activations to use.
Can we give a shout out very quickly to 8th place driver Ralph Murphy, up 15 places in this race event today. Yes, he has got a gap of 13 seconds to 7th place, but he's got 2.2 advantage above, and everyone else behind him is falling back. But to go back to Rico Alatalo, this now is going to be a case of when do you use the DRS efficiently.
Oh, a little bit of entry oversteer. You see in the inside left, well, the inside left front lockup there coming in towards the final corner. That's not going to be helping at all, as he'll drop back yet more tenths of a second, which he can't afford to lose here. Enrico Alatalo, he does have the hopeful prospect of traffic getting itself involved and just affecting Morand's pace here, but Morand, he's got himself a decent buffer now to be able to work with, but Alatalo, he already coming through the old hairpin and up towards McLean's. He's going to be closing up. I think that's actually going to be the section where he's using at DRS, because those corners are not too tight really at all, so you're not going to get brake loose while using the DRS coming through there. And here comes Alatalo then. He has the opportunity because Morand's made a mistake up through Coppice corner. Inside line taken, almost defended on the brakes into the chicane. Alatalo's got the race lead back, but here comes Morand then all over the back towards Melbourne. He will go, and it's outside line chosen by the Frenchman. Both of them have a little bit of a lockup in towards the penultimate corner, and Alatalo's so squirrely coming off of that one. They'll continue this battle towards the final corner. Morgan Morand on the inside, Alatalo on the outside will get crowded off the racing circuit there as Morand stamps his authority on this event. Alatalo's going to be fuming about that.
Yeah, and this all's really started just before the point. In fact, I want to go back about 15 more seconds and show you. This was the move here. He moves himself first of all to the left-hand side. This is Rico Alatalo. We're going to play it right now. He gets crowded once, and then you just notice the left-hand side of the car. There you can see the number 26 machine coming into play, because it just means that Alatalo did not get the run he wanted through the chicane, and that compromised him all the way from the Melbourne hairpin and all the way down to the end of the lap. That was some fantastic wheel-to-wheel racing between Morand and Rico Alatalo. Alex Horn, pay attention. Top 10 coming up.
Exactly, we'll get ourselves the end of that replay as Alatalo gets crowded off the circuit, but look at the traffic that Morant has to deal with through Melbourne. Alatalo's looking for the inside coming through there. It's absolutely, this is more akin to endurance multi-class racing with the amount of traffic that these guys are having to deal with through towards the final corner now. One more bit of that traffic, and then Morgan Morant is almost clear. He has one more a little bit further down the road, but then he can get back to his clear air lap times. Alatalo aggressive with the traffic, will get blocked by the traffic of Rob Boer coming down towards the first corner. He's going to be even more fuming than he already was about getting crowded off the circuit by Morant, and that lap traffic is not going to be his best friend, and Rob Boer taking the advantage of the fact that iRacing blue flags are advisory, but Alatalo's going to drive like a man possessed now for the last 2.5 laps.
Yeah, that's exactly the same point I was about to say there, Connery, because blue flags in normal iRacing races, they are advisory. It is not a case of move out of the way. Mirando has a bit of traffic as they head themselves down to the chicane, and that allows Alatalo to come back in a little bit. The gap is going to be 0.7 of a second into the Melbourne hairpin. Alatalo, 2 laps to go. He's going to have to make a miracle drive right now, as there has been changes behind, but we're going to stick with this.
I don't think Moran's car is entirely healthy as well, especially about the fact that Rico can come back at him time and time again. 2 laps to go as they head their way across the line now. 8.5 tenths of a second, 9 tenths of a second is the gap that Alatalo just has to surmount before he can call himself the race winner of this event. And Morant, he's going to be even slightly quicker coming through the crane and the curves. And Alatalo, you've got to have something left in the tank. Maybe that DRS activation you've been holding on to for the longest time, but if he's out of those activations, he has to do it all in terms of the skill with the drive off the corners, with the outbraking down into the heavy braking zones as well, and maybe count on a little bit of luck of Matteo Calistani getting himself in the way. Morant will swerve on the back straight, trying to make his presence known on the lap traffic. Calistani gets himself out of the way of both Morant and Alatalo, but through the penultimate corner and then on towards the final lap. Once we get that last corner to be disposed of, Alatalo, he needs a monster lap here if he's going to be able to challenge.
The gap has come down low to 0.7 of a second. Alatalo a little bit sloppy for the Melbourne hairpin. They will come to the white flag. There is 1 more lap to go. But Connery, the thing is now, can Alatalo have a monster run for the first sector?
Oh, he's going to look for the just maximum amount of track exit there that he can get off of turn number 1, kicking up a little bit of the dust. The run down through the crane of curves, a couple of tenths of a second going the way of the Finnish driver. But is it too little, too late here for Glacier Racing? Up through McLean to turn number 7, and then up towards Coppice again, up the hill braking zone through here. Alatalo, 5 tenths of a second, 6 tenths of a second. I don't think it's going to happen without a mistake from Morgan Morant. Up towards the chicane now for both of these drivers are riding on the back of the Frenchman right now, and Alatalo's going to be closing in, but it's just simply not enough. Deep on the brakes through the penultimate corner, and 1 more corner left for Morgan Morant to negotiate, and he can call himself the winner of this round of Race Sport TV Friday primetime in fantastic fashion indeed. Defending from the championship leader, Morgan Morant will win here at Donington Park.
What a race there by Morgan Morant, usurping Riku Alatalo when he needed to do it the most. There are drivers still to come, of course, past the start-finish line, but Morgan Morant, what a run he has done here today, Connie, because he got past Riku Alatalo. Yes, there was a little bit of battles going on around him, and that created some of the incidents, but Morgan Morant was able to hold on at the end of this motor race for about 4 laps of real pressure by the Finnish driver Riku Alatalo. Morant, of course, the incident about the 2 passing the first time will come into play, but Morant did get the victory.
Exactly, and you have to think about what could have been if Alatalo didn't get severely held up a couple of laps before the end there. Behind the lap traffic, we could be talking about a completely different story heading in towards those final 2 laps, but it's over, and we get to go over your final race results. Morgan Moran's winning by what says 6.5 tenths of a second, but it was so close there coming through the last couple of laps. But Moran's the driver that comes out on top on the first step of the podium. Rico Alatalo, P number 2, with Danny Garcia Filol, with the huge amount of drama that was happening ahead of him, still finishes 9 seconds behind of your leader there to finish on the final step of the podium. Ricardo Orozco good enough to finish P number 4 with Stefan Chantal P5, Stephen Gatesman P6, Ryan Parkins P7th, and look at that, Ralph Murphy started P23, ends up well inside your top 10 in P number 8. Tom Depke, P number 9, with Ruslan Sautov rounding out your top 10. And as we cycle things down, we'll get to your drivers a lap down or more. Matteo Calistani, P11, Freddie Venekamp, P number 12, Antti Voska in 13th, Rob Boa, 14th, Pablo Lamera Suarez, 15th, with Scott Bolster 16th, Andreas Nilsson 17th. Claudio Candio, after a fantastic first half of the race, just unfortunately wasn't able to keep it on the grey stuff, drops down to P number 18. Fabian Lochau, P19, and Jack Alden will round out your top 20. And then you've got your retirees right at the back of the field. It's going to be Michael Francis, Byron Daly, Cody Sanborn, Andrea Piccolo, Joshua Jablinski, Maya Domingo, Cesar Cabral, and Vasayan Kotov will be your final runners here for this edition of Racesport TV Friday Prime Time on the iRacing Esports Network. That was round number 6, Will, and it was a bonkers one.
Intense is the word I can say there. And yeah, Ricky Alatalo didn't get the victory, but yes, there was a bit of argy-bargy Moran by Alatalo, but both Moran and Alatalo had to deal with traffic for the last part of that last race. Last 5 laps, they both had to do so, but Moran actually was better in the traffic.
And that is the most important point that, you don't usually see in these very short sprint races that we have in the Formula 1 3.5s. You don't usually get to deal with all that much traffic, but when you're in a single split situation like this, where you have all of the top drivers that signed up to the race and all of the weakest drivers signed up to the race, of course, you're going to have to deal with much more lap traffic than you were expecting from any other normal event. And that's what Rico Alatalo has fallen foul to here with that. That period in the race of the entire first half of the lap, just a couple of laps before the end, where he got stuck behind that laps car. He just simply wasn't able to do it. And Donington is not the best circuit in terms of dealing with lap traffic coming through that first sector because, as you mentioned in the race, Will, it is so narrow.
Yeah, and there's a comment on YouTube. The big problem is the high iRating drivers drawing without practice. I'm going to say this one out loud, Connery. High iRacing drivers, yes, in some cases do not do as much practice as other drivers, but they have a high iRating for a reason. My road iRating is abysmal. My oval iRating is acceptable. But, these drivers, they join the races, they do not want to lose 500 iRating by crashing out and coming home P number 16. And that's actually a good tonic to talk about as we head over to tomorrow and the 24 Hours of Daytona. Yes, you're going to get high iRated drivers in there. They do not want to be in a situation where their reputation is damaged, even though iRating may not be in play.
Arguably, it's not even the high iRating drivers that have been causing the instance. The only ones that you see retired are, I would count as high iRating drivers, Manu Domingo and Joshua Jablinski. And, in those instances, those could go either way. So, not entirely sure what the point is there, but, it's just a fact of life sometimes when you're on the iRacing service and you get these single split events that you are going to have that sort of dissonance between some of the skilled drivers and some of the weaker drivers that just has to be factored in once you realize, okay, everyone's in this race. I have to drive a little bit more careful.
Yeah, and we were thinking about this before the start of the broadcast, Connie, because we see it go over to 26. Of course, the split number is 28 here. So what we had is a one split. If we had 29 drivers sign up, it would have been a race of 15 drivers and 14 drivers, and it would have been two different splits. And actually, what I would say is we wouldn't have had the excitement of racing that we would have had compared to having two splits, compared to having the one split. So we actually enjoyed having 28 drivers on track because we saw battles up and down the field, but actually, a good part of being a good motor racing driver is navigating traffic, especially under not only is it iRacing rules, but many European Intercontinental Series. Their rules are you must find a way past a slower driver. This ain't F1. This ain't LMP when you've got the advantage. This is a case of you have got to find your own way past safely.
Yeah, you do, and the important word there is safely. You can't go very, very aggressive with lap traffic and expect them to just open the door for you on the inside. You just have to treat it with a little bit more respect than that, but it still ended up being an absolutely fantastic race here today, especially at the front of the field with the dynamic between Morand and Alatalo. But, this is not the only event this weekend. We have the big one, the first endurance event of the year here in iRacing, and it's the first endurance event, special event, the first 24-hour race done with the new day-night transitions that the iRacing developer team have been working so hard on. Oh, this I cannot wait for this. Well,
You love that music just as much as I do, don't you?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
I mean, the thing is, we get to January. In my opinion, college football's over. The Colts are out of the playoffs, so it's a Super Bowl. Daytona 500 is coming, but on iRacing, it is a 24 hours of Daytona. And the thing for me here, Connery, is that we've not only got our broadcasted race, which is going to be live on Racebot TV for the 24 hours, as well as exclusively live on the iRacing Esports Network. But we've got the likes of Ian Plash, who's doing the 24 hours, I think for the fourth year, by himself, raising money for Extra Life. And this is what I love about the 24 hours of Daytona, because it allows people to go out, raise money, do something for some fantastic organizations around the world.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And before you get to worry about Mr. Plash's health, he does take regular breaks, especially around the pit stop phases, to get himself refreshed, make sure that he is okay in terms of going the entire 24 hours, which is just absolute lunacy to me. But if it's for a good cause, then who am I to blame him? But yeah, it's a whole sort of community event here, the special event. You just get everyone in the iRacing service that can do the race, will do the race usually. We only get to broadcast the top split, but you have to remember when those races are going on, there are 9, 10 other races exactly like the one you're watching also going on with members across the iRacing service competing, and I think that's an absolutely fantastic thing. And when you talk about the top drivers and teams saying, oh, they want to win the top split of this year's Daytona 24 hours, then you've also got to pay attention to some of the other smaller teams as well, which they don't know which split they're going to be in. They could be in the third split, fourth split, sixth split, but the goals for them might be a little bit different. Win their race, get top 5 in their race. It's not just about the top split.
It is all about, in my opinion, making it 24 hours. That is the hardest thing. I've done 24 hours worth of commentary, almost, and it was almost soul destroying for me. I will actually try and do the entire 24 hours of Le Mans commentating it. That is my aim, to raise money for Diabetes UK, because as many people will know, I have of course been diagnosed with diabetes in the last 12 months. But that's my aim, to try and do the entire 24 hours of commentary for the Le Mans 24 hours. But from high and up above, I think this is what we need to say for tomorrow.
iRacer, stall your engines. iRacing, stall your engines.
Start your engines, be ready, and be ready for 24 hours of fantastic racing as we go from the day into the night, into the dusk, into the darkness, into sunrise and beyond, Conway. Of course, you and I, we've got the breakfast shift. So basically, at that point, most of the race is done, but we still got to figure out who's going to be your winners.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most exciting points in the race. Another one is, of course, the race start round about 1:32 p.m. tomorrow is going to be the green flag for the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours. Jake Sperry is going to be the commentator taking you through the start of the event.
We don't know who with yet.
We don't know who with yet. That's a very, very good point. But we'll get that one sorted in the not-too-distant future, and we'll see you tomorrow for the big event. Goodbye.